Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining in. A very warm welcome to everyone who's joined in. This Sunday afternoon, we are here to discuss a very, very important topic. Suicide is a major public health challenge, causing over 7,20,000 deaths all across the globe. In India, too, the situation is very alarming. From 2018 to 2022, there was a whooping 27% rise in suicides. So the consequences are far reaching. It's not just about one death. It affects us socially, emotionally, and has economic consequences because it's not only the individual, it's the entire community at large that is affected. 10th September is World Suicide Prevention Day. It has been organized by the International Association of Suicide Prevention. WHO has been the co-sponsor of the day. The purpose of this day is only to let people know and create awareness across the globe that suicides can be prevented. All we need to do is emphasize a little more and create some policies to prioritize mental health, increase the availability of accessibility and care, and also provide all the necessary support to whoever needs it. Studio is Usha Gaonkar,
Hare
alias,
Krishna.
yes, alias Ushamati Devidasi Mataji, a clinical psychologist, art-based therapy practitioner, and a practicing devotee having over 25 years of experience. She holds an MA in clinical psychology and is trained in CBT, ABT, and REBT. Professionally, Mataji has served at Bhaktivedanta Hospital, Shushrut Hospital, Gopal's Garden High School. Currently, she consults various schools and academies to establish mental health systems, life skill curricula, and art based interventions. Spiritually, as Ushamati Devi Dasi, she offers her skills as and when needed to conduct various workshops in counseling and also in the child protection initiative with ISKCON. She beautifully blends her psychological experiences and expertise with Krishna consciousness. Her vision is to bridge mental health with bhakti, thereby enabling individuals to grow both in emotional resilience as well as in spiritual strength. Our second distinguished guest is joining us all the way from Australia. His Grace Chaitanya Charandas Prabhuji.
Hare Bol.
Haribol. Globally respected spiritual teacher, speaker, author, coach. He's dedicated to guiding individuals and organizations towards alignment, clarity, and inner purpose. He has authored over 20 to 25 books on leadership, practical wisdom, and on spirituality. Some of the key books are Science and Spirituality, the Gita for Daily Enrichment, 10 Leadership Sutras from the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhuji draws very deeply from the Vedic traditions to address contemporary challenges. Prabhuji is a prolific writer. He has penned thousands of articles, with over 1900 of them being just on the Bhagavad Gita, providing key insights on ethics, personal growth, mindfulness, stress management, decision making, and Prabhuji's outreach is international. He has spoken at prestigious universities such as Yale, Cambridge, Princeton, and also at leading organizations such as Microsoft, Intel, essentially offering programs which provide people over there on effective communication, how to incorporate leadership values, how to balance life in such high pressure environment. So we are really thankful to both of you all for joining in. Prabhuji, thank you so much. And if I can begin with ladies first,
Sure.
the first question, yes. So, Mataji, if you can tell us from a psychological perspective, what are the most common warning signs when it comes to suicidal ideation?
So, in my experience, what I've come across, and also what research studies show, is that there is a very large feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, despair. There may be statements like it's better if I'm not around. So, or life has become so dull and drab, it's like, so these are all, I'm not saying that these definitely lead to suicide, but telltale signs.
Yeah.
So also genetic factors play a very important role. In case there has been um, you know there is a genetic this in the family where people have committed suicide, relatives, or even your past generation, anybody, so that also has an impact.
Oh,
Plus, if you are suffering from any clinical disorders, any personality disorders, that also prompts people to take such steps. And i- at large, basically it is more of frustration, inability to do anything with the life. It's like I have nothing more left in my life to do. So that's what pushes people to the edge. So these are some of the telltale signs that we can look out for. I can relate to one small incident which had not one incident, multiple are there, but this is something which is comes across very strongly. That there was this 13-year-old girl. There is, I mean, she's still alive.
13-year-old girl.
13-year-old girl, and 13 or 14, she was in a ninth or 10th grade. Uh, I was treating her, and she came to me. No, I mean, she called me from the washroom of her school, saying that, "Ma'am, I want to commit suicide." So
Oh God.
it was very shocking for me at that point in time. I knew that children do that, but or they do get these urges, but this was something which I experienced for the first time. And I somehow managed to tell her that you please come out of the washroom. I spoke to her for some time, calmed her down. So first thing that we need to do for suicide is distress management. Now
Right.
that person is in high distress level, so the first thing that we need to do is that you calm down the person and try to bring some um, rationale into that person at that point, and whatever he or she can understand that, okay, why don't you talk to me right now, let's talk about suicide later, let's talk about why you want to do this. So I somehow convinced her to call the principal.
If
And
I may just ask, what was the things that you really told her? Because it's shocking, a 13-year-old.
yeah.
So, just for an idea, for our audience also to get an idea that someone so young can also, feel so. And
Hmm.
what exactly was the little
So
conversation, if you remember?
yeah, so I asked her that, okay, can you tell me, I understand, I get where you are right now, but I mean, can you tell me why you want to do this?
Exactly.
So then she revealed, I don't want to get into the detail.
True, true.
She revealed her, so I said, fine, I mean, there are, I understand that there are multiple problems and challenges that you're facing in your life right now, but these are not problems that cannot be resolved. So, can we talk about a solution rather than taking such a drastic step? And since I was already treating her,
Yes, yes.
I had a rapport with her. So she fortunately listened to me. And I said, why don't you call your principal or your class teacher, whoever you're comfortable with? It need not be your principal, it not be anyone in the school whom you are comfortable with. It could be a senior student also, a friend, a colleague, whoever. So she finally went and called the principal, and the principal spoke to me. We called the parents. By the time they had kind of calmed down the child and gave her water, made her sit down, the parents came. And then we had a very robust therapy program for almost about 3 months, where we created a safety plan in case, she
Right. Tried
decides.
again.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
there was a safety plan, there was safety net, a support system that was created for her. So multiple things. I mean, it was a multi-pronged approach to suicide, basically. So normally we have these 4 or 5 things that we do. First we ask, then you get the details and all that, and then after that, you try and keep that person safe. Like suppose that person is carrying a blade, or there are many lethal things that are around which can, pesticide is a very common thing that is used for suicides. So that is something which probably all of us can avoid at home. Blades, knives. I
Nice.
mean, there are multiple things that children and even adults can use. So if we can keep them out of the harm's way, that is one thing. That is a precautionary measure. Create a very, very, I would say, um, approachable and warm support system for that person. And finally, also create a safety plan for that person, right? So then this can prevent a relapse.
And in this case, it worked.
It worked. It worked.
Good
She's
stuff.
still, I mean, she's doing well. She cleared her 10th. She's, I think, now, I think it was almost 7 years old. So she must be, it was in my initial years
So
of.
she's absolutely out of it in terms of any kind of treatment.
She's not connected to me.
Connected.
She came for about a year or so. She felt better. And after that, the fact that she's not come back means she's okay. So on the parents have also not, so it's not that we as professionals, we don't keep in touch with our patients or
Yes,
anything.
right.
It's just that the fact that she's not come back. Normally, what happens if the patient is feeling uncomfortable, they get back to you.
Right.
So or if the parents have, so I have trained the parents that you will have to look out for signals. If there are any signs, please get in touch with me or any therapist who's around. Because now I'm not in Mira Road. I was in Mira Road at that time, but so it was
So
easier.
what are the top 3 signs you would say that every parent should be on the watch out for?
See, there is you can look for social withdrawal,
Social withdrawal.
isolating oneself from others.
Mhm.
Probably appetite reduces. There's no um basically all your desires die off. So what you used to like, what you would enjoy earlier is something
Right.
which you would not want to do right now. So socially you isolate yourself, there is withdrawal. Then there is a sense of hopelessness, a despair, that you can see in the child, that I don't want to do this, I don't want to get up, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to do, many I don't wants in the life. Basically appetite loss is there, sleep loss is there. So these are all symptoms actually of depression,
Got it.
and which could lead to suicide.
Right. So I would like to get on with this,
Sure.
a continuation to Prabhuji. Prabhuji, if you can please tell me, how would spirituality help someone like this who's down with struggling with despair and hopelessness?
It is. I I just give a why I'm speaking on this topic. I'll just give a quick background. I was introduced in 1996 to Bhakti, and then from 2014 I have been extensively traveling abroad. For 6 to 9 months I'm outside India. So after talking with devotees who are trying to do outreach in the West, there's a lot of outreach happening to Indians in the West, but outreach to Westerners, I have found that one of the most accessible ways to get to philosophy is through psychology. Philosophy is about the nature of reality, psychology is about the nature of the mind. So most people are not really interested in the nature of reality, but everybody wants to understand what is the mind, why does it work the way it works. So one of my books that I have written, which is a national bestseller, is You Are Not Your Mind, You Are Better. So you are not your mind. So generally when I present philosophy, I don't focus on the fact that you are not your body, because that does not seem very immediately relevant or practical for people.
True.
But if you tell that you're not your mind, then it automatically implies that, okay, I'm not my body also. So my preferred example is of a computer system where there's a hardware, software, and user. The hardware is the body, the software is the mind, and the user is the soul. So now, following up, so I found this a very relatable approach. And I would like to use this framework of dharma, artha, kama. We'll come to moksha later. But see, one of the things is Mataji also mentioned that there is no kama. Sometimes we use kama to refer to lust, but that's a very narrow understanding. Kam is desire. Kam can also be ambition. When Krishna says dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi, he means let your ambition not go against ethics, not go beyond ethics. So dharma can be ethics. So basically, the first thing that happens is that desires die out. One does not have any desire to do anything. And now, where do desires come from? Behind that is artha. Artha is a sense of meaning, a sense of value. It's not just money. So, if a person does not have any desires, they start feeling that life does not have any meaning. My life does not have any meaning. I don't have anything of value. I don't have any talents. I don't have any acceptance or respect or achievements or whatever. So basically, desire and hope are related. Desire is about what I want. Hope is what the universe will give me in return. Now, I'm just using the word universe here in a generic sense. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, I just lost you on the screen. And then, so basically, if we go further, dharma, now dharma can mean religion, and I'll talk about that, but dharma also means that it is belonging. Say, for example, if somebody has a dharma to their family, or that I belong to a family, and then therefore I have a sense of belonging, and therefore I will do something for the family will do something for me. I belong to a country, I belong to a spiritual community, I belong to my peer group in school. So there is alienation at all these three levels. One loses karma, one loses artha, and one loses dharma. Dharma means what? The person feels like Mata was mentioning about social isolation completely. So, so I think that at an immediate level, uh, are you not able to hear me?
We can hear you, Prabhuji, please.
We can.
Okay. So the way now I have not had to deal with too many emergency intervention cases because I'm not really at one place. I'm not specialist in that field. Um, though I've had at one time one devotee just sent me a message saying that please accept my final obeisances.
A devotee sent you
So
that, Prabhuji.
yeah,
Oh
so
my God.
it was early morning he sent, and I called him and talked with him, and it was quite in one sense shocking. But what had happened, he had been very enthusiastic about trying to serve Krishna through various means, through his profession, through his preaching, through his services, and nothing
Right.
seemed to be working for him. Nothing seemed to be working at all. And that's why he just felt, what is the point? My life is meant to serve Krishna, but I'm not able to serve Krishna at all. So now this was
You
very
wait.
tragic because sometimes even with serving Krishna, we might have a very externalized vision of serving Krishna. That serving Krishna means I have to be able to show the world something. I have done this, I have done that, I have done that. And if you look at Srila Prabhupada from 1922 to 1966, he had practically nothing to show, or at least in 1960, he had practically nothing to show. Then he had his Bhagavatam copies. But Prabhupada never lost hope. So I think that this framework of Dharma, Artha, Kama, that can help us, each individual, as a child grows up, there has to be a sense of healthy belonging. I belong to my family, I have a friends group around me. So Dharma is basically the idea that each one of us is a part of a larger collective. So then the individual does something for the collective, and the collective does something for the individual. So 2.7 in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna talks about and Arjuna asks, Pruchami Tvam Dharma Sammuda Cheta. Arjuna is saying, what is the right thing for me to do? And when 4.8, Krishna says that Dharma Samsthapanarthaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. There he's talking about what the collective does for the individual. He's saying, I will correct the whole system by which things will be fixed. So Dharma is about, is this visible what I'm drawing?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Dharma is what the individual does for the collective and what the collective does for the individual. So both kinds of dharmas are there. So, but the point is, for either of these to happen, there has to be a sense of belonging. And when a person feels completely isolated, it can be from their family, it could be from their professional colleagues, it could be from their community, it could be from everyone, then it's like from there it goes forward. So dharma is more about a sense of belonging and connectedness. Now, ultimately, this belonging and connectedness, we understand that we all have many dharmas. I belong to a family, I belong to a community, I belong to a ethnicity, I belong to a country, and ultimately we all belong to Krishna. So Krishna is the ultimate whole. This is where bhakti comes in. But that sense of healthy belonging is required. From that sense of healthy belonging, which is dharma, then, okay, I belong somewhere, and within that belonging, I have samartha. There is some value, some meaning to my life. And from that foundation, when one gets kama, kama is the desire to do things. So if we consider, just to get this framework, The Pandavas themselves suffered a lot in their lives. Arjuna, they lost their father at a very young age. Then it seemed their extended family was out to kill them. Many times people have problems with their family, where their extended family is out to kill them. But the Pandavas themselves were well bonded. And Arjuna found the artha in his archery ability. And the karma for him was, okay, I want to become the best archer and I want to serve Krishna. So each one of us has to find karma can be called, there are healthy desires. So we all need desires. So what happens? We can have, let's make two quick points and conclude it. Often in spiritual life, we talk about too much desire being a problem. And that is true. Too much desire leads to addiction. But too little desire, that does not lead automatically to renunciation unless one is spiritually advanced. Too little desire is often a characteristic of depression. So it's like we have sattva, rajas, and tamas. Too much desire is often the characteristic of rajas, but too little desire is a characteristic of tamas. Person doesn't want to get out of the bed, a person doesn't want to go to school or college, person doesn't want to do their job. So what we need is healthy desire in between. So we cannot demonize desire. And the healthy desire, that is as it is developed, okay, slowly. Now, generally, the healthy desires are not just, okay, I want to surf on, I want to watch TV, I just want to drink, or I just want to enjoy life. Healthy desire is based on artha. Okay, I have this interest, I have this ability. And from that artha, the karma that emerges is very helpful. So basically, what I understand that if you want to help somebody who is in depression, karma, artha, and dharma, we need to help them to find each of these. That what are your healthy desires? What are your abilities? What are your interests? These are what will become your resources. This is what with which you can make a difference in life. Now, finding artha, this is where I think a lot of problems come. That I use this acronym like AIR. We need some breathing space, a breathing air for ourselves. What are your abilities? What are your interests? What are the resources you have? All these comprise the artha. And a lot of people, especially because of social media comparison, just feel that I have no artha or everybody else has artha better than me. Oh, this person is smarter than me. This person looks more attractive than me. This person is enjoying this person enjoying that. So, especially with social media excessive usage, we often end up comparing the worst parts of our life with the best part of others' lives. Because others put the best part of their life on social media, and we often compare the worst parts. So, I think helping each individual to find something that brings value to their life is very important. And dharma refers to a sense of belonging. So now where somebody belongs to, that can vary from person to person. We may have our family as one sense of belonging. We may have our friends as another sense of belonging. We can have our colleagues as another sense of belonging. So we may all have different sense of belonging. And each of these, we do something for them and they do something for us. The reciprocation. But broadly, our spirituality can help us get that assurance that ultimately I do belong to Krishna, and Krishna will provide me many different resources. Krishna can provide me friends in devotee circle. I can find various places where I can belong, and that can give a basic sense of security and self-worth. So that's a quick perspective on this point of spiritually speaking, a sense of belonging, sense of value, and then sense of healthy desires. So dharma, artha, and kam.
Prabhuji, if I were to go back to the case in point where you mentioned about that devotee coming to you and saying that, how or what was that point solution that you gave him? The reason I'm asking is, if a devotee can ask this, it's very important to understand the triggers for a devotee. If you can go a little more deeper into that, and also what did you tell him, because that could possibly be what could be running in the minds of many devotees who are just not able to express it. So little more light on that if you can throw, please.
Yeah. So as I mentioned the answer briefly, I talked about the example of Srila Prabhupada himself, how he had done service for so long without any visible sense of success. That he had tried to build a business, it didn't work. He tried to start the League of Devotees, it didn't work. He tried to do various things. So what happens is our desires are shaped by our worldview. So if somebody has a spiritual worldview, naturally they will have spiritual desires. So the desire in this case is to serve Krishna. But then in that desire also, one can experience frustration.
True.
So the nature of the world is that any desire we have, we will be frustrated because not the world is a tough place. Satatam kirtayantoma yatantascha drudavrata, Krishna says. That even one whose life is completely dedicated to Krishna, is such a person also, they will have to endeavor because nothing comes easy in the world. So basically, then as I gave Srila Prabhupada's example, and I also talked about how generally for devotees we may need to give devotee examples, but I also talked about how success in bhakti has an external dimension to it and an internal dimension to it. So external dimension is often the visible results of our service. The visible results are the achievements that we make, the applause that we get for the achievements. So generally, this is achievements. Now, what happens? Sometimes some of us may do achievements also, but we may want applause for that achievement. And the achievement is great, but we don't get the applause. That can also happen. But the internal success is more invisible, and that is centered more on our absorption in Krishna. So now this may seem a little philosophical, and it is true. So the second point, so Prabhupada was always absorbed, even from 1922 to 1968. He was very absorbed. It was not that when success not coming, he was bitter. Now 68 to 77 was the period when he got extraordinary results.
Right.
Even 66 also he started, but the movement didn't really grow in 66. 68, when he went back from India back, that's the time the movement really took off. So that's the example of Srila Prabhupada I gave. The second point I mentioned is that we all need Sajatiya Sangha. Sajatiya is like-minded association. That is extremely important. Like-minded, what does it mean? That it means that we have the same category of desires. We have the same or similar definition of success. So if some devotees is focused very much on studying Shastra and going deep into Shastra and learning Shastra, and that devotee is surrounded is in a community where everybody is into book distribution or everybody is into fundraising for building a temple, then that devotee even there will feel devalued. That, okay, what are you doing? How much funds did you raise? How many books did you distribute? So we all need not just association of devotees. We can say generally, if you have devotee association, we will have similar desires. We all want to serve Krishna. But serving Krishna is also like a very large umbrella. We talk about Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission. Sometimes we talk about it in one breath. But my understanding is Srila Prabhupada's mission was one, to spread Krishna consciousness. But he manifested many moods. Sometimes he
Right.
said, let's have a farm community. Sometimes he said, let's have a Gurukul. Sometimes he said, let's distribute books. Sometimes he said, have Bhakti Shastri Bhakti, all these exams. Prabhupada mentioned many different things.
True.
So, we cannot, we are belonging to the devotee community, but we may need to find out where I belong in the devotee
Right.
community. So the
Right.
same somebody who is, so these two things, the internal success where you focus on absorption, and the like-minded association, which can help us feel accepted and valued. If somebody is going deep into Shastra, you ask them how much funds have you raised, and then, or say somebody is taking care of our devotee children. This is one of the things which we neglected in our first generation. Our whole focus was on preaching to new people. We just
True. True.
assumed our devotee kids will become devotees. Now, if you're going to preach to only our congregation children, And that's not going to be a huge number. They're already the number, fixed number. So it may not be like a very sensational definition of success, but we need people who value what we are doing. See, in our social circle, I'll just universalize this point and conclude it, that there are people who will value us and there are people who will devalue us. Hmm? That is just the way it is in any community. It is devotee community and outside community. Now, the worst thing we can do is that we devalue those who value us, those who encourage us, appreciate us. We say, oh, you two always speak like this only. I don't take them seriously. And then we overvalue those who devalue us.
True, so true.
Sometimes we spend our entire life trying to get approval from some person. And even if we do 100 things for them, they only criticize us for not having done the 101st thing.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
this is actually a recipe for alienation, hopelessness, and depression thereafter. So the opposite side is that we value those who value us. And that is the whole idea of like-minded association. And not that we devalue those who devalue us, but we don't overvalue those who devalue us.
True, that's so
So
critical.
for example, right now we are having this seminar, this kind of discussion we are having. Now, there are many people, at least there were 5-10 years before, so mental health care, what is needed for that? Just chant Hare Krishna, everything will be all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is ultimately true. But the psychology of each person is different. There will be people who will devalue it. And yeah, that's okay. But if we start overvaluing them, then we will think all such initiatives are worthless. So that's why like-minded association is important.
True, true. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So, Mataji, my next question: who, in your experience, are most vulnerable? What age group is it, or who's most vulnerable? Is it teens? Is it the elderly? Is it the people who are in the rat race? Who's it?
It is mostly, if you look at the research studies, it's 75 and above. But nowadays, it's the teens that are getting into basically from the age of 10 to I think 22 or 23.
My God.
Okay, so this is now there's been a paradigm shift in the suicide population.
And any idea what could be the trigger?
What Prabhuji just said was very important. It's that in psychology we say external and internal validation.
Yeah.
Okay, so there, if you are seeking external validation all the time, it is not necessary that you will get it.
So, likes
So
people
it is
today.
important for you to start validating yourself internally. So one step ahead, develop a sense of self-worth. Develop a sense of self-esteem, self-worth. Improve that, work on that. Once you work on these aspects, there is no need for you to seek external validation, because you're good to
True.
go, at least good to go. And also the fact that somebody not validating you is not the end of your life. But unfortunately what happens is that many times this validation is seeked from parents. See, there are children who seek validation from parents, and I'm saying 10, it's a child, a child is seeking validation from a parent.
Oh, I thought it's social media where
No,
likes make life to a
that's
great
one
extent, because everybody's on social media today.
closest validation is
Parents.
And when you don't get that validation, you go to social media for validation. And when you don't get the validation there also, that's the end of your world. And that is what you think it is. But that's not the end of your world. There are so many things, like Prabhuji just said, you can engage yourself in so many things. And I have found that children who explore, children and teens who explore various activities, extracurricular, like a dance, drama, singing, whatever, they are much developed people, personalities as they keep growing. The more exposure you have to certain things, and you're able to identify what you're good at.
Right.
Only if parents give you that option or that opportunity to explore various fields, that's where you will come to know. Otherwise, where will you know today? Like, okay, there are a lot of teenagers who come to me who are a part of this JEE and
Correct.
NEET rat race.
Absolutely.
All right. And when I ask them what was your percentage in 10th, it's like a mere 70% or a 75%. I don't want to be the
Discourage.
person to tell that child that I don't think you can get it. I'm nobody to say that. You never know. Probably he or she will just develop an interest for academics and take it up. But it's important for parents to understand the reality, and it's not that they come willingly. So these are parental expectations, and when those expectations are not met, the validation is not complete. And when the validation is not complete consistently, that's when all these thoughts keep coming. And we as psychologists, we teach them to challenge these thoughts. So that's a process. I'm not getting into that.
Right.
So it's known as cognitive restructuring. So you try and restructure the way they think. It takes time, but it works. That's what CBT is all about.
It's all. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a part of CBT. There are many more things to that. So, I mean, it begins with that, the seeking validation, which is a very important point Prabhuji made. And we seek validation from people who don't give it to you,
Unfortunately. True.
unfortunately.
True.
And
True.
children are the most soft targets for this. Just yesterday, I had one child who came in, the same problem, that my parents don't validate me, they don't understand me. But children also need to understand that it is not necessary for a parent to understand you completely or validate you completely all the time. It's not necessary that your parents have to always keep appreciating you. That's not how we grew up.
Right. Yeah.
You
So,
need to be tough. So there are times when you need to be able to take a no, you need to be able to take a rejection.
and
That's how
today's generation
it is.
somehow doesn't take
No,
no.
no, no. That's right. So we'll be focused on this later in one of the sessions, how to take a no. It's
Absolutely.
very important how to take feedbacks, how to take rejections, how to give feedbacks. So all these things are very, very important. Even as adults, when we deal with, youngsters, teenagers, we have to be a little sensitive while talking to them,
True. True.
because that's how the generation is today. Not that we want them to become soft, but probably we also need to start becoming more sensitive.
True. Prabhuji, over here, I'd like to take in your perspective from the Bhagavad Gita. Arjun was expressing his despair. How or what do you think we can learn from Krishna's response to Arjun from today's perspective or from today's topic's perspective?
See, Jiv Goswami mentions that what is the message of a book? We can understand in various ways, and one of the ways is we look at what comes at the start and what comes at the end. So he says that basically at the start, the first words that Krishna speaks is in 2.11. Oh Shochan. Shochan can mean lament, it can mean fear, it can mean doubt. It basically refers to negative emotions. So actually, the first word Krishna is speaking is of reassurance. It is not worth lamenting. Ashochan. And the last line of the last verse, 1866, is Ma Shuchaha. So, in one sense, Krishna is actually do not lament, do not fear, do not doubt. So, through both of these, Krishna is actually giving encouragement. Now, there are many intermediate verses also where Krishna gives encouragement, but that encouragement is very, very important. And then most of the Gita is about enlightenment. So, encouragement is more for the emotions, for the head. Encouragement is more for the heart, for the emotions. Enlightenment is more for the head. So, it is that both levels, like when the person has lost hope, first, from Krishna's example, we learn we need to give them hope, we need to affirm, we need to appreciate, we need to console, support. And then there is a Krishna gives a worldview. So, in general, enlightenment does not have to mean necessarily philosophical enlightenment, but it is more that issues have to be dealt with at an emotional level as well as at a rational and practical level. So sometimes we may feel that, like parental expectations, parent will say, I lived in so much difficulty, I lived in so much poverty, I provided you everything. You're living in a comfortable house, you're going to great school, you have lots of clothes and gadgets and things. Why should you be depressed? So no, that's a big emotional disconnect over there. So what happens? This other point which Manadev has mentioned about loss. See, everybody faces loss in life. Now, depending on whether we are in sattva, rajas, or tamas, now we can say loss means I have lost. That is an objective assessment. Yes, I had this opportunity, I lost this opportunity. Now, in rajas, we get very invested in whatever we're trying to do. And it becomes I am lost. Not just I have lost this opportunity, it's more like a loss of direction, loss of even purpose in one's life. But in tamas, a person may take loss far more severely. That is, I am a loser. And this, if somebody is taking a loss in this way, this is quite toxic. This is where if we were in a relationship with someone whom we thought is a loser, we may just want to break up with that person. If we are in a partnership, because economic financial partnership with somebody, we want to end that partnership. So if we think we ourselves are losers, then can we break up with ourselves? Well, suicide in some ways is
Breaking.
an attempt to break up with oneself. When
True.
somebody says, I don't want to live, what it means is, I don't want to live my life. I don't want to live with myself.
True.
So this now, going back to the earlier point of parental expectations, what I have noticed, if you consider India, and I won't say it's only India, even China is similar, versus West. Generally, I talk about dharma, we want to belong to some group. So in India, most student suicides that happen, from whatever I observed or researched, it is due to academic failure. Now in the West, because there's not so much competition, there's not so much parental pressure. I have not heard of, and whatever I have talked with mental health professionals, there's also the suicide there are not so much because of
Academic.
academic setbacks. There they are more because of relationship setbacks.
Yes.
There it is because of somebody has a breakup and they get completely depressed. So it's like basic. But again, the point is, where is one getting one's self-worth from? So if you're getting our self-worth from our parents, then that's one thing. If you're getting it from our peers or from our relationships, mm, other relationship, I mean romantic relationship, whatever, then it's when people have a relationship, it is that they also show off that relationship with others, to others, basically. So now our bhakti or our Bhagavad Gita or bhakti helps us to actually get that intrinsic self-worth, that I am a part of Krishna. I am a soul, the soul is indestructible, and I'm a part of Krishna. We have this verse 15.7, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke, that I am always a part of Krishna. Now, Sanatana, I'm always a part of Krishna. And what does this mean? This is a philosophical truth. Like I mentioned, philosophy and psychology bring together. If I am always a part of Krishna, what that means? I always have a part in Krishna's plan. So I always have a part in Krishna's plan. And understanding this can be very hope giving. My plans have fallen apart. I don't know what I'm going to do in my life, but there is a bigger picture. So understanding the concept of the soul and understanding the concept of God, yes, I may have got poor marks. I may have lost a relationship. This went wrong, that went wrong. But that is not my identity. I'm a soul. And the soul is indestructible. And the soul will always be loved by Krishna. The soul is always cared for by Krishna. And even through my setbacks, Krishna will always have a plan for me. And if I keep prayerfully just trying to take steps forward, we will find a way ahead. So that worldview is very helpful. So I find that the more spiritual a worldview it is there, and that's why I'm using the word specifically a spiritual worldview, not just like a worldview that focuses on religious affiliation and religious accomplishments.
Mm.
But the more internally I'm convinced that I belong to Krishna, not that it's only when I raise a lot of funds or I do a lot of visible services, then I'm accepted and respected among devotees, and then I have some value. Our bhakti should be able to increase our intrinsic sense of value. Then that is in many ways the ultimate protection from this kind of hopelessness that comes.
So
So
beautifully
Arjuna
explained.
faces, so just to conclude this, to start with Arjuna's question, see, Arjuna faces the worst crisis of his life later on, when Krishna departs from his life and even his ability of archery lets him down.
True.
But
True,
even
true.
at that time, he becomes hopeless. Yudhishthira says, we have been through many difficult times, but I have never seen you as depressed, as devastated as you're looking right now. But then Arjuna remembers the words of the Bhagavad Gita. So I had tried to look at various acharyas' commentaries to see whether they mention, okay, which specific verses of the Gita does Arjuna remember at that particular time. So I
Yes.
don't see any acharya mention that. But I think each one of us has to look at which verses from the Gita inspire us, remind us that there is more to life than the immediate definition of success and failure that we are having.
Absolutely. That's
Very
why
true.
Bhagavad Gita is so essential. If people could just understand this spiritual point of view that Prabhuji explained, it would make it so much easier. It would probably save so many lives. Mataji, coming back to you, people who suffer from these mental health conditions like depression, anxiety. So, what role will this play for suicides?
Plays a major role
Yeah,
actually, because
and
when
this is a common problem today.
yes, it's very common. Like Prabhuji just said, relationship breakups are a major cause here also. Loss, we have lost, or grief, trauma in the family. If you've lost somebody, you've been sexually abused, assaulted, exploited, these cases come.
True,
And we handle, and these are all like key, I could say, clients for,
true,
could be,
true.
because they do have suicidal ideations, they have suicidal thoughts, and they have attempted once or twice. So it is very important for us to keep them in, give them a perspective, like Prabhu, that there is hope. Life does not revolve around just you getting validation from your romantic partner, or one a person not being in your life. And third one, which one was that I said? One was relationship breakup, one was loss, and trauma.
Trauma,
Trauma is any kind of
loss. Yeah,
sexual abuse, yes. Even sexual abuse is like something which, like, when if somebody has gone through it in their childhood, it has a very great impact throughout their lives. So I have had people coming to me at the ages of 32, 26, 28, 50, 60, talking about it. And they are so traumatized that it has left a very, very deep impact on them. Not everybody turns to suicide or suicidal thoughts, but yes, definitely they've had those thoughts at some point in time of their life. And it is not necessary that if you have a suicidal thought, you will, there are times when people just have thoughts but they don't act upon it. See, there's been research done that normally what happens is it takes only 5 minutes for a person to commit suicide.
is it?
From the time, yeah, from that, so it's not necessary that,
It's
you
not
know
planned. It's just
no,
at that
it
moment.
is, yes, it's a momentary decision. Only rarely you'll see that somebody has planned and everything. There must be some this, but it's a momentary decision. I have personally faced this in my life. My own sibling has been a part, has committed suicide, so I know that it has happened absolutely without any, we were not aware of it, we were not, you know so there were symptoms, but we tried treating, we tried doing everything, but still it could not be avoided. So that's why this topic is very dear to my heart. I take it very seriously when it comes to suicide prevention, because I was left with a lot of guilt for almost 6 to 8 months. What was it that I could have done? So this is what happens to family members. So you need to think before you have these ideations. You need to think, what will happen to my family? Of course, you're not in that
Frame of mind at
frame
that
of
time.
mind,
Yeah,
but we also need to give this perspective to a client who comes, that fine, these are all the things, but you also have people who love you. Why do you have to focus on people who don't love you?
true.
So for me, it's a very personal subject, so that's why I take it very seriously. So anyways, um,
Also, how could, since you have both the views, clinically as well as spiritually, how can they complement each other in terms of preventing uh, this?
See, clinically,
Prabhu,
it
just
is
1 minute.
Prabhuji,
Sorry,
please.
I'll have to go in a few minutes. Can I just
So
add
he
one
can
point
answer.
over here?
Yes,
I
yes,
just
Yes,
want
Prabhuji.
to
I'll
add
take
Prabhuji.
your
one
perspective
point.
first on the same
No, no,
question.
let him
Yeah,
speak
no,
now.
no, no. I agree with you. I just wanted to add something over here. See that what Mataji said about like within a few minutes, a person can do that. So see, there is another advantage of a spiritual worldview is that the understanding that life is sacred. One of the problems with a materialistic worldview is that there is no sense of the like there is something divine about life. That life is a gift. Life is not ours to destroy at our own sense, at our own whims, basically. So in many ways, life in the previous generations, if we take the modern conception of linear conception of progress, life 200 years ago, 500 years ago was much tougher. Far more wars were there, far less technological support was there, social. So I'm not talking about Satyuga, but a few hundred years ago. But even in those times, we don't see people ending their lives. We may say that we don't have that many statistics. Yes, we have. We don't have that much statistics, but suicide was not that common. See, even when life is difficult, that one meaning of the word dharma is also a sense of boundaries. That certain actions are just not to be done.
Right.
So, for example, we all may get angry, but no matter how angry we get, we may raise our voice, but we're not going to take a knife and stab someone. It's just, it's out of question. So I think this doesn't come just by rational deliberation. It comes just by a development of a conscience that comes from a deeper worldview. So there are certain boundaries which we will never cross no matter what happens. So that how do we develop that? I'll just mention this point and I'll broadly speaking, we all have this lower side, the impulsive side. Basically, what happens for us, our situations that come in our life, they are reversible. Today, I might be in a terrible situation, but tomorrow, the situation can improve. Mm. Now, the emotions that come from the situations are also reversible. Today, I feel terrible. Tomorrow, I may not feel so terrible. But if we make decisions under the spell of those situations and those emotions, they can be irreversible.
Yeah.
So, suicide is probably the example of the most irreversible decision. So, in in spiritual life, there are two broad principles. One is detachment, and the other is discipline. So, detachment is in the Bhagavad Gita language shama. Shama is we keep our mind peaceful so that situations don't affect us that much. And Dhamma is even if I am emotionally affected, I don't act on it. So Shama and Dhamma are Brahminical qualities, the qualities which each one of us can develop. So the understanding the sanctity of life. Now, how does that happen? That some actions are not to be done. Our lower urges, that urge to end one's life. So how are the urges checked? There are broadly four levels at which the urges can be the negative urges. At an external level, they are checked by law. Hmm. At a social level, they are checked by culture. Hmm. And at a personal level, they are checked by one's conscience and one's intelligence. Hmm. So, what do I mean by that? See, in the past, in many countries, actually suicide was illegal. And if a person survived, they would be punished by the law. And Christianity, suicide is considered a sinful activity, and anybody who commits suicide, they will not be allowed burial in the church grounds. So, in our tradition, it's said that if somebody ends their lives, then they will not get a physical body soon. They will live in a disembodied state like a ghost. Now, that is not meant to scare people, but that is meant to deter people. So, now the law and the culture we cannot affect, but for each one of us, the boundaries that come. These are actions that I'm not going to do. So our own conscience and our own intelligence. This is what we can help everyone to develop. That suicide is, yes, I am having problems in my life, and it's a bit harsh to use this word, but the suicide ultimately comes from a very self-centered worldview. That okay, my life is not going well. Let me end my life. But my life is not about me alone. Like what I said, there's a bigger purpose and a bigger plan for my life. The exam we have in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Haridas Sanatan Goswami, he drinks some infected water and he has all kinds of boils with pus on his body. And when Mahaprabhu comes to embrace him repeatedly, he feels so bad. And all these pastimes are transcendental, but he feels very bad and he confesses to Jagadanand Pandit. And Jagadanand Pandit says, you know, yeah, your body is smelling like this. You should not contaminate Mahaprabhu's body by letting him embrace. So how can I stop? So he thinks that I will end my life. I will throw myself in front of the cart of Lord Jagannath and I'll end my life. And what does Mahaprabhu say at that time? Mahaprabhu says two things. First, he says is that if I could have attained Krishna by ending my life, I would have ended my life hundreds of times. So, but second thing he says is that I have many plans for what I want to do through you. So that earlier point I said that Krishna has a bigger plan, a bigger purpose for us. So if through a spiritual worldview, my life is about something bigger than me. It's my emotions alone cannot be the basis for my decisions. So to that extent, that expansion of consciousness comes up, then it's relatively easier to be able to fight off those urges. When those urges come up, the urges will come up because life is difficult, life is discouraging. And our point is not to guilt anyone that that we don't want to shame someone or guilt someone when somebody is doing something wrong. But the point is, there has to be deterrence from such actions, and whatever resources work for us, conscience itself takes a long time to develop, but at least our intelligence can be developed. That if I have a urge to do something like this, what will be the consequence of that? What will be the consequence for me? What will be the consequence for others? um, I met one devotee in America. I'll conclude this incident that this devotee, he was a brahmachari in a temple, then he left the temple and he married an American girl who was not a devotee, and she had a lot of depression. And one day his wife committed suicide, and then it was just a couple of years he had left the ashram, and then he called his ashram leader and he said, this is what has happened. And the ashram leader replied to him, this is not a criticism of ashrams or ashram leaders, but just the mentality. He said that, anyway, your wife was not a devotee. Krishna has removed that obstacle from your life.
Krishna.
And when he heard this, he said that I'm never going to practice bhakti again. Because now I actually I know the ashram leader who said this. He said I was only helping him try to see something positive over there. Just like Narad Muni, when his mother passed away, he saw that this is an opportunity for me to practice spirituality. So I told him the big difference here is Narada as a boy came to that conclusion himself. If you force feed that conclusion, it doesn't work. So he was telling, at that time, my thought was, that did I do anything to push her over the edge? So he was feeling what is called as survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And when
Right.
somebody told him that, it's just an obstacle and he got out of the way, he says, do you have any sense of value for human life? So I think, so spirituality can definitely help. But, if we use some simplistic quotes from here and there, and we can't scare people or try to minimize and dismiss it, it won't work then. Anyway,
Right, Prabhuji.
so
So,
thank you so
since you
much.
Prabhuji,
Yeah, go
since you
ahead.
have to go, can I take one audience question for you? Is it possible? Do you have the time?
Yes, please, quickly. Yeah, quickly.
All right. So it's pertaining to your USP. It's how to deal with office stress because that causes frustration and that can sometimes lead to suicidal thoughts. So how to deal with office stress? Quick 2, 3 pointers if you can give Prabhuji, please.
Well, two quick things I'll say. First is that stress comes not just from the work but from the workload. That means how we mentally perceive how much work we have to do, how we mentally perceive the work we are doing. So if we see that, okay, I have a lot of work to do right now, and it's a difficult phase in my life. So life has some negative phases, some positive phases. Sometimes negative phases come from karma. So rather than focusing on the workload, just focus on the work. Okay, this
Right.
is a task I have to do. Let me complete this task, go to the next task, go to the next task. So I think focusing on the work is at least in Sattva-guna or Rajoguna. Obsessing over the workload is Tamoguna. And then that leads to just we start feeling resentful, we start feeling that we are being wronged. And second thing is that eventually, if it is happening constantly, then we have to take a stand to do. If the stress is intermittently coming, it's okay, but if the stress is coming constantly, then we may have to decide that, is this sustainable for me? Do I
Right.
have to make some changes? But generally it comes in phases, and shifting to something tangible, the task at hand, rather than the psychological workload, that helps in relieving the mental burden.
Right, right, right. Thank you so
So
much,
thank you
Prabhuji.
very much.
Since you have less time today, I'm going to request you to please next month give us a little more time from your busy calendar, because this topic cannot be concluded, or there is so much more to talk. I'm sure we need one more session. 1 hour is already up. I know you have to go. You've got commitments. Please spare us some time next month, and we'll let you go at that. Thank you so very much.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so much
Hare
for
Krishna.
inviting me. And I think Mataji is an expert in this field, and I've been talking with several international leaders, sannyasis, and gurus outside India, and they are saying that we as an institution, we along with our temples, we need to have a parallel wellness center where we have a therapist, we have a yoga teacher, maybe an Ayurveda doctor. Now we have Bhaktivedanta Hospital, which we in the Mumbai
Right.
community is there. But I think this initiative which you have taken up, it's, I think, at the cutting edge of what we as a spiritual community should be doing. So I'm grateful that you are doing this, and I'm grateful to be of a small service. All the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hare
Thank you, thank
Thank you,
Krishna.
you,
Prabhuji. Thank you
thank
so
you, Hare
much.
Krishna.
I'm going
Hare
to come back
Krishna.
to you, Mataji. The same question. Clinical and spiritual care, how can they complement each other for someone who's facing these issues?
Okay. So, in my experience, most of my clients are, I mean, there's a mix of devotees and non-devotees.
Right.
So if they come from a devotional background, I do first do the distress, reducing the
Calm down.
distress, yeah, calming down, plus giving them a safety plan. Then, as I said, cognitive restructuring, trying to help them change their, it's known as an alternative way of thinking.
Mm.
So if you have a problem thought, like Prabhuji said, instead of focusing on the workload, focus on the work. Like
Right.
I had a client who came to me. I'm just giving you an example to make it simpler. She was stressed out because her boss would yell at her. So she stopped. I mean, she didn't feel
Feel
like
like going.
going to work.
Right.
Okay, my boss is always yelling at me. So I asked her two questions. Number one, is this job important to you? Number two, do you have another option? Number three, or first, sorry, where does this anxiety come from? There is a root cause for it. Number
Right.
two, is this job important to you? Number three, do you have another option? So she said, number one, it comes from the fact that in my childhood, my father used to yell a lot at me. So
Oh,
it's a belief, that she's been brought up with, that somebody yells, I get scared, I feel anxious. So that's not been addressed at all from childhood to probably the age of 23, 24. Number two, yes, this job is important to me, but number three, I have options. She was into content writing and she was very good at it. So she said, I'm not scared. I have a lot of freelance work lined up for me. I said, fine. In that case, you need to take a stand for yourself. And then we devised a strategy how she would do that, how she could go and talk to her, boss and explain. And it worked beautifully for her
wow. But
after
in
that.
many cases, the second option is not there.
Exactly. So that's when
Yeah,
Prabhuji said,
that's
when
right.
the second option is not there, you don't focus on the particular person, you focus on your work.
And also increasing your tolerance, I guess.
Exactly, because the threshold of the teenagers or the youngsters today is very low.
Very low.
So anybody shouts or screams at them, "अरे, इसने क्यों मुझे डाटा और
डर जाएगा या गुस्सा आ जाएगा.
Exactly.
दोनों में से एक.
So either of two things. So there is the tolerance threshold has, as I said, the ability to take a no, the ability to take a non-constructive feedback.
Right.
Or even if the feedback is constructive, I've seen that in the schools that I work with also. If I have to talk to somebody, give a feedback, okay, I'll see what I can do about it. That's the way they talk, the current generation. So I'm like, I am taken aback when I hear this, because we don't come from this generation.
Yeah.
For us, a feedback is a feedback, and somebody elderly gives you a feedback, you think seriously about it. You plan I mean, you find out why this person is saying this. But the current generation does not, unfortunately, want to think. They say, okay, fine, I'll see what I can do about it.
Ah,
So
true.
coming back to your
Yes.
stress thing,
Yes.
the spiritual part, if the person is spiritually inclined, then definitely after all these things, if they don't work, because first we have to look at symptomatic relief.
Right.
Okay. And spirituality, see, clinical will give you relief, spiritual will give you hope.
Hope.
So first we work on relief, then we come to hope. Even if the person is a not devotee, and if it doesn't work, the stress, whatever, blah, 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 whatever we do, I always say, why don't you say a prayer? Whether you are a Christian or a Muslim, why don't you take shelter of a higher power?
Absolutely.
So I always say this towards the end, if nothing works, or I refer them to some other psychologist. Probably I am not good enough for them. So that also, it has happened. It's not that I'm all my clients I've been able to. So I always refer, if I feel that somewhere down the line, after a year or two, things are not working out and things are getting bad or relapses are increasing, then I refer them to somebody else.
We actually have a host of questions, but the problem is paucity of time. So I'm going to take one last question. All
Okay.
right. From the audience, it says, how can you be happy in Kali Yuga? Because the problem is unhappiness leads to suicide. One of the things. So how can you be happy in Kali Yuga?
Happiness, I feel, is a state of mind. Wherever you are, you can be happy. It's not necessary. And again, we have to understand what makes me happy. Am I dependent on
Important.
somebody else? Am I dependent on somebody else? If I am depending on someone else, obviously the state of happiness is going to keep faltering.
True.
It will keep swinging, ups, downs. If that person makes me happy, I'm happy. If that person makes me sad, then I'm sad. So it's like giving the remote control of your emotions
You
to
just said
somebody
it.
else.
Absolutely.
So we need to understand that no one in this world can keep you unhappy or happy. It
Absolutely.
is up to you how you want to remain happy in this world. You have to find things, like Prabhuji said, you have to find things, you have to find tasks, you have to find activities that make you happy. If Krishna consciousness keeps you happy, be in Krishna consciousness. If singing makes you happy, sing. If dancing makes you happy, dance. So you have to find that one thing that makes you happy. As simple as that.
So we'll conclude today's discussion over here, but with the assurance that we will come back because the topic needs a lot more discussion. We need to go in. There are a lot more questions, but I'm sorry we couldn't take those today. To sum it up, suicide is a complex issue, but we can work on it together. If we just prioritize mental health, if we just encourage open conversations, if we just talk or hear or listen without being judgmental, because every life is valuable. Human life, as our scriptures mention, is extremely valuable. There are 84 lakh species. We humans are the topmost. So just because of one emotional outburst, one little problem here and there, we just cannot give it up. So we'll be back very soon. Thank you so very much for joining in. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for
Thank
coming.
you.